Hi, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about a new component that I'm going to be adding to this channel here. And it is something that I'm pretty excited about. I normally talk about all of my bookish topics, all of my, what I'm reading, what I've read, book reviews, things like that. And there have been times when I do some of my crafting when it comes to like paper crafts. And I've also done some planning. And I just kind of come on here and share some of those things. But I've decided that I would like to also add a new component here. And that is going to be my needlework crafts. And so what that is going to look like for right now, and it can evolve or change later on, I'm not exactly sure. But for right now, it is going to be knitting diary or a crafter's diary. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to call it yet. I'm kind of leaning towards the knitter's diary, but the reason why I'm thinking about changing it is because I also crochet and I spin and I'm learning embroidery. And so there may be a few other things that I decide I want to talk about. However, the overall point is that I've had this channel for some time, and one of my hobbies is reading, of course, but another hobby of mine is to do the needle work, the needle arts. And over the past, years or so, I have grown in my skill set, and we move around a lot, and so there's not often a community that I'm able to build and stay with. And so there's also this space of wanting to share and connect with what I'm doing and what I'm into, and just have conversations around the other part of my hobbies. And so that is the fiber arts. What I'll probably be doing is coming on here, and I'm not sure how often it'll be, but I'll talk about like what I'm working on, or what I've worked on, what I've completed, what is coming up, what I've I'll show you some of the things that I've done. My goal is going to be to have some videos that are bookish, and then other videos that are like the knitting diaries. And then there may be times where when I'm talking about, my reading wrap ups or my wrap ups in general, I might do the wrap up with with the books, and then add in the wrap up with the creative items that I've done. We'll see how it goes. This is like a trial and error. It's just supposed to be fun. It's nothing super technical or anything like that. And it's just kind of give me the space to do it. And it's the ability to connect with you on it too. And so if you're someone who is interested in this, if you do any of these things, feel free to chat with me here. But if you're someone who's not interested, stick around for the bookish talks and things like that. Those are not going anywhere. Um, Doing this may actually even help me to create more videos, because it's sparking that interest that I had when I first started so long ago. I think it was like maybe 15 years ago. If I go back to when I had did my big chop, and now, and then I've gone through stages here of being natural with my hair, and now I have my locks, so you can see the transformation of me throughout the time with my videos. That's what I want to share with you about where we're going. And now we're going to get into the knitting diary for this particular month. All right, so let's talk about what I've worked on over the past week or so. As you can see, what I am wearing is a cowl, and this is something that I knit in about a week. And the yarn is called Ella Ray, and it is made up of acrylic and baby alpaca. So it is very soft, and this is the actual yarn that I used. So I have enough to make like a hat, or to make some fingerless gloves, or to make another one. It you know it really depends on what I want to do. Or I can just keep this in my stash and add it to another project. I'm not exactly sure. I bought two because it just felt so nice and squishy, and I have a cream coat, so I don't normally wear this with my shirts. I have it on today so I could show it to you, but I wear this with my coat when I go outside because it's January, it's cold, and coming from a warmer place, I was like, I really need to create myself some items that can go with this cold weather. So the cowl is like a continual scarf. If you're someone who's not familiar with what a cowl is, I didn't know what a cowl was until I started knitting. So I'm able to, and I hope it's not affecting the mic, but I'm able to pull it over my head like this, and I can have my coat on, or I can pull it down and I can just wear it as such, right? And I like to pull my hair out and then kind of have it dangling. And so the pattern that I used, I did modify it. I added on the bottom piece right here because I wanted the collar part to be thicker so that when it laid on, here, it would have more detail in it. There were times where I was excited to be working on this pattern, and there were times where I just wanted it to just breeze by because the stitch is not it's not a very complicated stitch, but sometimes when I didn't feel like really doing all the things, I just wanted kind of something simple. But I finished it. And the border of it is a twisted rib. So that wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't big. And that is also on this tiny part of the border here, but on this big part, I just did a regular 3x3 rib stitch. Okay. So I'm gonna keep wearing it during this particular video, but I don't normally wear it inside. I normally just wear it when I'm wearing my coat. Let's just talk a little bit about what I worked on. So the other project that I worked on is something that I've been working on for over a year now. And it is something I'm very proud of. If you see my Instagram or my TikTok for my books, and I have recently created a TikTok for my knitting and crocheting and crafty needlework projects, you have seen this blanket. So this is the Pearl Soho prism blanket, and it is basically a set of triangles that are all worked together. This is more of when you are working on them, you can just piece them together as you go. And so this is what it looks like. So right now it is taller than I am. So it's about the length of a twin size bed, and it sits straight across me right now. As you can see, this is the width, and it's very, very long. Um, I with one more panel, it would be considered a crib size blanket. However, I'm creating the actual the throw blanket, which I think it's a throw, but it may be able to fit on a twin size. So I have, I think, 2 or 3 more columns to go, and I'm not rushing through this. I'm estimating that I'll probably be done by the end of the year, but if I'm not, that's okay because I really enjoy this project. It's something I'm doing for myself. I love the colors, and it gave me a new skill set to work on. Learning how to piece together the triangles continuously while I worked was really good. I A lot of times I have strayed away from certain things because of the piecing together, and I like to stretch myself when it comes to my creative endeavors. That way, I'm able to learn a new skill set, test out things. I'm gonna make mistakes, so this has really been a joy for me to work on. Like I said, it probably will not be done until the end of the year, but um, that's okay. I'm 100% happy with the progress that I'm making. This pattern is free on the Pearl Soho website if you're someone who's interested in working on it, and they do have some tutorials online where on YouTube and on their blog, where are um, if you're trying to figure out like how to connect everything, it tells you. Also, I am using the Pearl Soho yarn. So here it is in pink. So all of the yarn that I'm using for this particular project comes from, this is like a Pearl Soho complete project. The yarn is Um, this is the Good Wool by Pearl Soho, and it's 100% Andean Highland wool. Okay. Yes. And it was last year, it was a knit along, and I think they were doing it in like 3 months. I moved in that process, and I just decided to take my time and go through it and allow myself to really enjoy the project instead of trying to rush through it and not being happy with my progress. Because a lot of times for me, when I'm knitting, it's more about the journey. I do enjoy the finished projects, but it's really about the journey too. Um, the journey is very important to me. So I am just putting this inside of a bag that I made. This is my knitting bag for that particular project. And it is quilted here, and I have a little stain on it, but I'm still going to show you. I put a handle here, and it does have a little loop in case I'm out and I need to clip my keys onto it. And I really love this bag. It does also fold down like this so that the zipper does not snag my yarn, because that is something that, I do not want to happen. So it can fold all the way down, but it folds over like this. And then I just work on the project while it's in here. Currently with this particular project, I am working on the next triangle, and so I'm in the color yellow, and I'm going to be finishing that. Working on some Chalgu needles, and these are interchangeable with the red wire. And then I picked up these little stoppers from the local yarn store that I went to recently. I had to go a little bit out of range, but it was worth it. I needed to, get into the yarn store and check out what they had. So, and that's also where I purchased this Ella Ray yarn. So next thing I've been working on that is coming out of another project bag that I made, this beautiful flower project bag, and it does have a button with an elastic piece on it. And then when I fold it over, if I want to fold it over, the inside is this gray. So I am working on a pair of socks. This is sock number 1. Okay. And this is the part where I had to work 6 inches, and I have to check and see where I am with that now. Let me see. Okay, so it says that I'm supposed to work 6 inches from the cuff, and I am at 5 inches, so I have a whole nother inch to work, and then I will be going to the next part. So this is how far I've gotten. And again, I'm working on some Chalgu needles. They are 1.5. The pattern actually called for a 2 or a 2.75 needle. I think it was a 2. But I wanted to work on the 1.5 because of my stitches. I like it when they're kind of small on my socks. I love my socks, and I wear my socks very often. I get kind of cold a lot. So one of my favorite things is to work on my actual socks. And I really love how this yarn is coming together, as you can see it here. So let's talk about the yarn. This is Madeline Tosh, the Madeline Tosh yarn, and it is hand dyed, and it is the colorway Killing Me Softly. Hopefully I can say that on here without getting any strikes or anything. It is 435 yards. This is what it looks like in the in the cake, because I caked it up, right? What it looks like. And it's really beautiful to work with, because as I am knitting, I'll see little pops of color. So at first, as you can see here in the right here in the little ribbing area, which it is elastic, right? At first I was like, oh no, it's going to be a whole lot of pooling and I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like. But as you can see, as the sock continued, it's more like confetti, like a chocolate confetti cake, I guess you could say. But it's really beautiful, and it has pops of red and peach, and little bits of purple. And I just think this yarn is really, really pretty. So I have begun working on that, and I've been working on it for probably 2 days. I think I started it. Yeah, it's about a 2-day project, and like I said, it's going back in this project bag that I created here, and I keep this with me when I go in the car because sock knitting is so portable, right? My blanket is like my couch knitting, and my socks are my car knitting and talk. Sitting at dinner the other day talking to someone and knitting. So here's how it closes up, and it just goes inside my purse. My son asked me to make him a hat, and he sent me a video off of TikTok that showed a young lady crocheting some granny squares, and she turned it into a hat. So what I am doing for him is I'm making the hat, and it is black and cream. These are granny squares. And so right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 and a baby granny square. It calls for 8. When I was looking at what she did, now there is no pattern. I'm just winging it. I'm going to do these. Of course, I have to weave in the ends, and I know there's a way to weave in the ends as you go, but I just got to it last night and was like, it's okay. I'll weave them in as I go. I don't mind. So um, it calls for 8. So this is 5, and then I have 3 more, and then I will be done with this hat, and then I'll block it and go from there. Oh, you know what? I did mean to say I haven't blocked this. I just made it and then was going. So I need to block it. I wonder what it'll look like once it's blocked. It's so squishy. Okay, so let's talk about the yarn that I'm using for that crochet project. This yarn I have had for such a long time, probably like, I don't know, 15 years probably, because um, it was such a long time. So this is some acrylic yarn. It is Red Heart. I did not expect this yarn because I never really worked with it. I'm just going to be very honest. I bought it. I started learning how to crochet with it. Then I went to my local yarn shop. I got more yarn. I learned how to knit, and I just kept on going. And this has been sitting in the tubs for a very long time. So I did not expect this yarn to look so pretty. It really works up nicely in the project itself. And I'm hoping that when I block it, it will do the same. My concern for this has always been I'm worried that it's going to pill. And I don't want it to pill in a project that I spent so much time on and given to someone. If it's for me, it's okay because I know what it's going to do. But the reason why I decided to use the acrylic yarn for my son's hat is he's always on the go, and then he's probably going to throw it in the washing machine. And I was like, I am not going to knit him a wool hat only for him to throw that hat into the washer and for it to shrink. I mean, crochet him a hat and him throw it into the washer and for it to shrink. So I went ahead and I'm making it out of the acrylic. I am using a size H crochet hook for this project. I was going to use a G. That's normally my go-to whenever I'm doing granny squares. However, for the size of the granny squares, when I looked at what the young lady did, I was like, I don't think I need to have the granny squares be too small. And I didn't want to do too many rounds. So I was like, okay, I counted her rounds and I looked at the size that I may need to have the right gauge. And so I just went with the H hook. And the other yarn that I'm using is this here. Is a very big skein of yarn. And this is Bernat worsted. This is probably the same age as the Red Heart yarn. I have so much yarn. I knit and I crochet. I work on my projects, but I buy a lot of yarn too. So this yarn is probably the same yarn that's been sitting there for a very long time. But I went ahead and I pulled it out because I thought that the combination of the colors would be very nice. And as you can see, they are. They are very, very nice. I didn't want him to like struggle to figure out, well, what can I wear this with? So if he wants to wear this with blue or green or black or anything, he can just go ahead and put it together because the cream, it kind of comes off as a white when you look at it up against the black, which is nice. Okay. And I did pull out one of my Granny Square books to just kind of go through and refresh on my Granny Squares, just because the projects that I've done mostly with crochet have been for me. And so I was like, okay, let me make sure that I'm actually doing the proper granny square for his hat. I want it to look a certain way and I don't want it to make it too big or anything. So I did pull out my Granny Square book. And in doing so, I said maybe I'll go through here and do a few Granny Square projects, but we will see. Next thing I am doing is I'm actually creating another shawl like this, but it's for my daughter. So I am using the Big Twist Party yarn. This can be found at Joann's. It is, I believe it's just acrylic. Yeah, because it's like not washable, washable, low iron, do not bleach. I think it's just acrylic. Yep, it's 100% acrylic. And normally when I knit things up, for my kids or anything like that, or anyone who I'm going to give something to that I'm not sure if they're going to follow the washing instructions, I just do an acrylic yarn. And a lot of those yarns are really easy to get from like the local craft store or the big box stores. So she wanted this color here. I don't have the paper. I normally stuff the paper inside, but I didn't do that this time. And this is about how far I've gotten. Like I literally just kind of started it, and then I was like, okay, because I am doing the exact same pattern here, I need to really be in the mood to do it. So I also considered changing out the pattern, changing out what stitch I use here, and even changing out the ribbing on it because I don't exactly want to do the twisted rib. I like how I did the rib down here. So I may be just winging this whole thing, using this kind of as like a foundational um, piece for me to know what to do. But this stitch may be completely different. The whole thing may just be completely different. So I am working on this for my daughter. Now, let's talk about what I am going to be working on. So I have two different things that I'm kind of in the middle of and trying to figure out where I want to go with it. What do I want to do? So they're just kind of sitting because every year I create myself an item, whether it's a sweater or a shawl. I create myself a big project. So I do have my blanket going, but I also wanted to create my big item for the year. So right now, I have my February lady sweater that is sitting on the needles, waiting for me to pick her up. So it's just been kind of hibernating and sitting there. It's called the February Lady, and so I went ahead with like this purple amethyst type yarn. And let me tell you what yarn it is. And this is the pattern, let's see. It's the February Lady sweater. I don't have who it's by. Oh, Pamela Wayne at flintnex.com. So I have that. And I'm not going to show you the picture because it's not even in color. So there's no point really. And the yarn that I'm using is, I believe it's Cascade. So let's see. Nope, it's Barocco ultra alpaca. So obviously I like alpaca yarn and how it feels. This is super fine alpaca and Peruvian wool. So this is something that it's been on my list to do for quite some time. So I'm just like, okay, I really need to do it. I'm not exactly sure where I'll get with it, how far, but I am going to pick it up. It is sitting on some knit picks needles, I think these are. And I have torn up some of these wood needles. They're really good for my hands because my hands do hurt. They're really good for my hands, but I also break them a lot. So, and that is just inside of a plastic project bag, sitting and waiting. Next, I have the Petite Knits No Frills sweater. I think I did post this on my TikTok when I first started, on my Instagram when I first started it. But I'm picking it back up now because it's just been kind of sitting. So I'm picking it back up. And what I am doing with it, the yarn that I'm using for it, I did create a gauge swatch, which is so pretty. Isn't that beautiful? I have a bag of my gauge of my swatches, and I love going back and checking my swatches to see like what the projects that without pulling out all the sweaters and all the socks and everything. I love going back just to feel through the swatches, and it's just a really nice reminder of the work that I've done. Now, when I first started knitting, I didn't like gauging. I didn't like swatching. And I was just like, I just need to get into the project. But then as I began to create sweaters and hats and socks, sometimes, I learned that if I don't swatch, then my project won't come out the way that I want it to. So I normally swatch unless I just feel confident enough in knowing I'm going to create a hat. I know what it's going to be like. No worries. I'll just go. I'll just go. So this one, it does have a swatch for it. And I've already done the collar. Done the collar. There's a stitch mark on it that I made. And it says, find joy in the journey. And then it is sitting on a pair of um, it's sitting on Chalgu wire with the stopper, waiting for me to attach the next wire to keep on going. I believe that the needles for this particular project are on a different project, and that's the reason why it's sitting here waiting on me to attach the other needles. But let me show you the yarn. So I am using Emma's yarn, and it is the Crazy Beautiful Color Simply Spectacular DK, and the color is Beach Please. Okay. This is reminiscent of when we lived in Florida. As we have traveled over the years, I have collected yarn from the various places that we've been. Then I work up projects, and I remember the experience that I had there and what I loved. So this project was started there, and I'll be finishing it here now. And then it is sitting inside of this like little simple stationary pal bag. I keep all my little bags. Like when I buy sheets and blankets and stuff, I keep them. It's going right in here. Let me put the swatch back. I should put the pattern as I normally do. I think I didn't put the pattern because I bought a pattern holder and I had it sitting with that. So, okay, it's in there. All right, so for today, that's the end of my actual needlework projects. Yeah, that's all I'm going to show for today. But I did want to show you my sewing projects. I did this in the month of January. I created the knitting bag, and I have my socks in it, and it has a little button, so I did create that. But I've also created some book covers and Kindle covers, and these are going to be in my Etsy shop, which I'll leave a link below. But this one is I don't know if anybody would want this, but this is mine. This is my little notebook cover, my notebook sleeve, and it has my project notebook in it. So I just put my little project notebook inside with the pen, and I just keep it set aside, and I take my notes on my projects and I just keep that with me. All right, then I have the Kindle sleeve. This is the Kindle Paperwhite sleeve, very similar to my little project notebook sleeve. Okay, that one. And then I've created book sleeves. So this one is another Kindle cover. This is a Kindle cover too. This is a Kindle Paperwhite sleeve. It's yellow on the inside. And this one is like a pearl white on the inside. So I've created these. And then I have a mass paperback book sleeve here. And I piece together these items in a quilting fashion. It has a nice little decorative stitch on it, as you can see. Even in the white, I stitched these together, sewed them. Then here's the inside. The same inside as the Kindle cover. Now, this is the same size as this. I put a button on it. I turned it into for my knitting projects, but I can also put my mass paper book in here too. So it's the same size. Then I have these two, which these are the 6x9 book sleeves. I'm gonna make some larger ones for like paperbacks, but for right now, this is what I have. These are the 6x9 sleeves, and this one is holding my current read, which I need to finish really soon, which is the Book of Night Women by Marlon James. And I have really liked having the book sleeve because I tossed this in my bag. And the first day that I tossed my book in my bag, if my cover got folded back, so I was like, I need to go inside and get my book sleeve. I put it in my book sleeve, and it has kept my book nice and cozy, and no bends or anything in it. So this basically holds like the regular 6x9 book. Anything that's like, let me see how many pages this is, because there are some books that are actually like 300, 400 pages that, let's see. Oh, this one is 422 pages. So it does fit this in here. So I just put my book in, and then I toss that in my bag. So as you can see, like I toss this in my bag, I toss this in my bag, and then when I have my Kindle and it's not inside my Kindle Paperwhite case, and I put it inside my sleeve and I toss that in. And then this is another little sleeve. The edges are on the side, so when you're putting the book in, like you have something to grab here, and just kind of put it in. But it is the same size as this one, same size. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I have quite a bit of a stash. You will see that as we go along, and I show you like the projects that I'm working on and everything. But most recently, I did pick up these from Joann's. These are acrylic yarns, similar to the ones that I am making my daughter's shawl out of. Her cowl out of. And whatever I create these with, they're either going to be for us or they're going to be listed in my Etsy shop. I'm thinking about making some more of these and posting them, but I don't know. I don't know. I really want to enjoy my knitting. We'll see. I don't want to put too much pressure. But these are some of the yarns that I just got. They're big twist yarns, can be found at Joann's. They are very, very pretty. I have not worked with them enough to talk about what it's like working with them, or if they pill or anything like that. They're just beautiful. So I added those to my stash. I did add the Ella Ray to my stash, and I now worked on this. And then the other thing was the yarn that I'm using for my socks, the Madeline Tosh that I showed you earlier. That was also a new acquisition. And then I have this here. This is another yarn I'm going to use for socks. And it is called, it's Wonderland Yarns, Pigments of Imagination. And this one is Marianne. I think the name of the brand is Wonderland Yarns. The yarn is probably Marianne. And then the colorway is Mad Tea Party Only Lime Tail number 153. That's the yarn. Okay, and this yarn is a finger and weight yarn. It is superwash merino wool and nylon. So while I do knit with and use the acrylics, and I know they have their place, I really prefer the natural fibers that don't have any superwash in them. We can talk later on about why that is, but that's why I prefer. But I love sock yarn because I like to make socks. So yeah, that's everything for today. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. If you want to connect with me in other places, then you can find me over on TikTok. For the bookish items, you can find me as MrsRBookish. And I'm more active on TikTok than on some other places. I need to be more active on Instagram. But if you want to connect with me very frequently, I'm on all platforms pretty much as MrsRBookish. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter as MrsRBookish for the book stuff. And then for the fiber arts and knitting items, I'm on TikTok as MakeRoseArts. Okay, so or MakeRoseArt, I think it's no S, but you'll see my picture and you can connect with me there. And I am regularly posting and sharing what I'm working on, and currently just connecting there and loving it. So this was fun. I hope that you will join me again for my knitting slash crafty diaries, and we will talk again soon. Till next time, bye.